Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we talk about problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with a video.
Alright Reddit, I usually use throwaway accounts to post about personal stuff in here, but to tell my side of what actually happened and hit certain people with facts, I will go with my main account which everyone knows about. So everything started 3 months back when I lost my job and had to move in with my grandparents till last month. I was 5 years old when both of my parents died in a house fire, and I was the only one who got out barely alive. From what I have been told, I was stuck under some wooden sofa that I remember all of us using in our living room and suffocating from its weight and the smoke. But a fireman saved my life, and I was admitted into the hospital where I stayed for 2 weeks and was then discharged. My grandparents took me in because they were the only ones who actually cared about me. During my teen years, I lost both my grandparents in the span of 2 years. My grandfather passed away when I was in my freshman year, and my grandma just after 1 month of me graduating high school. I had got into a nice college in the next city and used all the inheritance money that I got from my grandparents for tuition, and was as good as broke. I couldn't afford the dorm fees or an apartment, so I went to live with my aunt. As I had few more months to be an adult, I needed a guardian. So my aunt took up that duty, or precisely speaking, was forced to take up the duty by other family members. Staying at her house was a disaster. She and my mom never got along. According to my other aunt, she was in love with my father, but he didn't reciprocate her feelings and chose my mother over her. She always blamed my mother for stealing away her true love and happiness and despised her for literally no valid reason. She also had a son that was my age, but he was going to attend a community college, so his feat wasn't as interesting as mine. So his attention-seeking ass felt his ego being bruised and made sure to torment for the whole 1 year that I stayed there. He bullied me, sexual harassed me, and made sure to make my life miserable as much as he could. For instance, getting his female friends to beat me up and torment, destroy my belongings, and the final straw was him destroying my mother's cardigan that the fireman managed to recover from the fire. After that incident, I made up my mind to leave that place, and no matter how hard I had to work to get money, I would leave that place ASAP, and I did. I managed to get a job at Target as a cashier, and not that I enjoyed being one, but it paid enough for me to manage the rent and food. So somehow I made it to graduation, and at the same time my aunt's son, who had dropped out around his sophomore year, started learning business from his dad, who later passed down his business to him. As I mentioned earlier, I lost my job 3 months ago due to being burnt out. I rested for the first 2 weeks properly because I've been working and studying and doing all sorts of sports and everything for at least 8 years without a break. And when I told all this shit about being burnt out to my manager, he said, "Oh, you're being dramatic, and I don't think you can get a break for that long without getting fired, which I know from your circumstances you can't afford to." So in 2 hours, I pulled up my resignation letter and left the job. So after 2 weeks, I go job hunting, and I don't really find anything that I enjoy doing and something that requires my skills. After 2 days, I went to visit my other aunt, whose daughter is pregnant, and they were throwing a baby shower for her. I take some good gifts like, some baby toys and dresses for her. I found them for cheap at Walmart, and I put a nice gift wrapper around them. All others had got her something like jewelry and expensive stuff, such as, good wines, fruits, perfumes. My aunt was really quick to point out how my gifts looked so cheap and how I should have just come with nothing instead. Everyone was immediately awkward about the situation. She made sure to mention how her son, who is also my age, is doing a lot better than I was doing, and when she asked about what job I was doing, I didn't really want to mention that I quit and I was jobless, but while talking about one thing and another, it slipped my mouth, there again turning that into a big deal. She told me, smirking, that I should join her son's company to support myself, and honestly, that did sound like a good chance for me to show everyone how respectable and nice of people their whole family is. I joined the company and I knew they would try their best to underpay me and overwork the shit out of me every now and then, but I only needed a good 1 month there to throw some light to the evil that was going on there. I just wanted to make sure to take that one thing that makes my aunt feel so superior and snobby around me. I worked as a normal office worker there, and for their status purpose, I was told not to give out my real identity, so no one would recognize that a small person like me is from the same family as my boss, aka cousin brother. I worked and endured the whole month, collected proofs against their poor behavior towards me and lack of professionalism, and made sure to have proof of every time I was overworked and underpaid. Keep video recordings of me being bullied by my cousin's ass lickers and fangirls going through my camera pen. Recorded every time I was called using the N-word along with other racial slurs, both by my boss and his workers. Every humiliation and poor behavior that was made against me was recorded and was kept as a record. Skip to this month's beginning. I go to the cops and write a total 10,000-word complaint to the police and the workers' agency of the area because no way I was leaving them. I know this all sounds vengeful, but until I haven't taken my revenge for all the humiliation, the trauma it's caused me, my inner child would never heal. I hired a lawyer through the Workers' Rights Agency and sued him for not only refusing workers' rights, but also violating my basic human rights. The firm that my cousin ran went through a lot of defamation, and what I didn't know was that they were already in a lot of debt to begin with. After 3 days of getting the notice, my aunt contacted me and ordered me to take my case back, or else she'll make my life more miserable. I made sure to record that and send that to the family chat group. The chat blew up my phone one by one, asking me to stop putting false accusations on my cousin and not make their life bad and be thankful that they took me when I needed the most. And when I refused and fought back, they all kicked me out and made me the bad guy in all of these. I know I'm telling the truth and will also stand by my truth until I've gotten my justice, and I will not be taking abuse from rich and entitled people regardless of how much I owe them, and I don't really care if they are my very own family. I hope this message is clear to the people in the back who are also part of my own family, and moreover, I would like to inform a specific group of people that I no longer want them in my life, and nor do I care. A month later, a lot of it has improved. I've also pulled the call recording that I had with my aunt as evidence in this trial. And yes, don't worry, I am taking money out of my savings to pay for everything in this trial, and I believe in the law of my country to protect me. The case is really strong from outside, and the verdict will be out in 1 to 2 trials, so everything will be fine. They did reach out to me and try to take my case back, but I'm still firm. They even went as low as offering my lawyer money and bribing him into discontinuing my case. But he stayed unhinged and put the whole of them bribing incident to our favor by turning it into evidence. I have a really good job now, and I just started it a week ago, and I really enjoy it. I get paid $7,000 more than my previous job, and next, I will update it after I've kicked their asses in court. So, as I said, I will make an update after kicking their asses in the court, and we did. We presented all our evidence, and surprisingly, a family member also came out in my support and testified in my favor and told the court how they have always made my life miserable even before I was an adult, and told the times when I was bullied and assaulted and everything. The court held my cousin, brother, aunt, and the whole company guilty. Some of the workers in that office, who had also left work after me, testified about the poor working conditions and everything. So we had an easy win. I had sued them for $50,000, which they paid me. They have lost their company, and it's been working in losses for a long period of time and will probably be shut down. And not much of the aftermath actions have occurred, but I will put those in another update after a month. It's been a good 3 months. Your girl is thriving and living her best life. I still work at my old job that I told you all about since I last updated. So I've been doing really great after all those that has happened. And also I've started my own brand of spices and herbs that is doing good for a real beginner. And I have already sold $2,000 worth of spices and herbs in 1 month. I also work for human rights and spend a lot of my time at church. My cousin's company went bankrupt and was shut down 2 months ago, and no one has heard from my aunt since then. The family members have also kicked my aunt out of the group for lying about me and putting me through hell. And now that her rich person of the family status is gone, no one really cares about her anymore. She is the most irrelevant person ever. The last family gathering happened a month and a half ago and she didn't come. Good thing she didn't. All others are really proud of me and help me through my therapy and everything. We talk about my grandparents and parents often and discuss a lot of them, about what they did and what they didn't, and just go through the nostalgic train and remember them. That's all, honestly, just slowly building myself from scratch. All good. Laugh out loud. OP, kudos to you for standing up for yourself, girl. Burn them to the ground and destroy them. NTA. I've read about something similar that happened at Amazon to a black man. He was called the N-word, and he sued for $8 million and won. Go girl, get that bag, and yeah, NTA.
Next story.
Backstory. I'm a 22-year-old female and I share a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom apartment in New York City, owned by my grandfather, with 3 other family members. My twin, 22, male, who we will call S, my cousin, 21, male, who we will call A, and my other cousin, 19-year-old guy, who we will call L. We divided the rent and housework in a way that we agreed on. Since I am in a better financial situation than the 3 of them, I pay APX 55% of the maintenance and utilities for the apartment. Maintenance is $2,000, so I pay $1,100 in maintenance plus all other costs. I also have the master bedroom, largest with best views and half bathroom. I also do 90% of the cooking. Since S and A are really close, they share the second largest room in the apartment, while L gets the smallest, a 9 by 10, to himself. Now, on to the main story. We grew up Jewish. S and I weren't raised as religious as A and L were. For instance, we only kept kosher in our kitchen. S has become more religious since then and will only eat kosher. So A, S, and L all keep pretty strict kosher. When me, A, and S decided to live together, we were 18 and 19 at the time. L moved in a few months ago. They both told me that the kitchen and dining room would need to be kosher in order to live there. I was completely fine with that if I was able to eat non-kosher in my own room with disposable utensils. They told me that they were fine with that if I disposed of it properly and only ate in my room. I only cook kosher meals for us in the kitchen. I will occasionally order non-kosher fast food for takeout and have it in my room. Recently, there was a problem. For the first time, I decided to order fast food to the apartment. When the food came, L opened the door, gave me the food, and then yelled at me for disrespecting his religious beliefs and for making the house non-kosher. A&S said that there was no problem with it if I was going to eat it in my room with my own disposable utensils. L still insisted that I was being unfair. He also went as far as to say that it was unfair that I got the master bedroom because he moved in after everyone else. I then reminded him that I pay the majority of the rent and do almost all of the cooking. He won't talk to me now. AITA here? NTA. As far as I can see, you're adhering to all the terms set by your non-kosher agreement and paying more money to boot. Perhaps it's time to let the 3 of them stay together and get your own studio or rent with friends without these particular customs. I suspect that L doesn't like your sense of freedom from the religious traditions that even your twin has conformed to. Maybe he thought that you would take on a stricter course by now, and he's more annoyed that you aren't? NTA. He had a temper tantrum, did not get his way, and then tried to create a fight by bringing up room space that has probably been bothering him. If he is uncomfortable with what he agreed to when he moved in on how everything works, then discuss your issues with your brother and other cousin, and then he knows what his options are. But if someone decides to ignore me because they are sulking after a temper tantrum they threw when they did not get their way, I definitely would not be cooking for them.
Next story.
My coworker, Brittany, and I are both 19, and have worked together for 7 months. We're not friends. She's been kind of a jerk to me in the past for no reason. When I first started working there, I didn't have any driver's license. I'd get a ride or take Lyft to work. When she found out I didn't drive, she thought it was hilarious and would make it a point to tell everyone, even new people. Nobody cared. Then she'd say things like, "You have to get driven by your mommy." To this day, I don't get it, but I have my driver's license now. Well, anyway, Brittany's hours were cut a month or so ago. Everyone's were butchered, were cut more than mine. Apparently, when she'd seen the schedule, she had seen that I had more hours. She asked for some of my shifts, but then didn't want them because I'd only give her up weekend shifts. She said I was trying to benefit off her needing hours. She's been telling everyone about her financial problems, that she's going to have a hard time paying rent, buying food, etc. This really isn't out of the ordinary because she overshares a lot about all different stuff. She asked me a few weeks ago if I had $50 so that she could borrow. I said no. A couple of days later, she asked again, and I said no, and she said, "What about 20?" I said that I didn't have it. She said, "Well, you borrowed Stacy money the other day." Stacy is a friend I work with, and she forgot her wallet, so I loaned her $10 for lunch. She paid me back the next day, so that's a lot different. When she said that, I shrugged and said, "I could do that then. I can't now." Ever since then, she keeps asking me for different amounts, like once a week or twice a week, saying that she needs it for rent or something. When I tell her no and to stop asking, she gets more aggressive. She says things like, "What do you have to spend money on? You live at home. It's not like you have to pay rent or bills." Or, "You have 2 jobs. You can afford it. I really need the money." She's asked at least 2 other co-workers. I only know because they were talking about it and asked if she'd ask me for money. They said it's awkward because she won't accept no for an answer. Brittany asked again yesterday, and I said, "Brittany, no. Stop asking me. Seriously, it's annoying." She said, "Well, I'm glad my struggles annoy you. You work 2 jobs and probably could help me out, but you just don't want to. So you're being stingy." I'm just sick of it. I've told her to stop and she won't. I want to report her because she's refusing to stop, and at this point, it's uncomfortable. Sometimes I worry about buying lunch and she confronts me, which I could totally see her doing. WIBTA if I report it to my boss? NTA, she's harassing you and that shouldn't be allowed. You should have probably reported her sooner just for her behavior towards you.